Good afternoon. Hope you're having a great day. What a beautiful Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, if I may say so myself. So many faces, new and old, friends, new friends. So much camaraderie, so much love, so much warmth, so much spirituality. The greatest thing to me was that all the new families that came felt so much love from others, and we're getting invited for meals and for breakfasts and trying to help people navigate new families that moved here or new families to our community. And it just showed me the sense of what real community is and what the most important thing is. And it's not by coincidence, because today is the first of 4 days between Yom Kippur and Sukkot, which is called God's days. Because when you talk about the name Yud Kei Vav Kei, the name of Hashem, it's a 4-letter word. And the rabbis tell us that each of the days between Yom Kippur and Sukkot is a name for one, is the day for one of the letters of God's holy name. And therefore, it's a very special time, because we went from Sukkot, from Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah, a time of introspection, a time of sincerity, of reconnecting, of finding our way, of praying, of fasting, and now we go to a time of celebration. And the beauty of Sukkot, out of all things, is that in general, in Judaism, things have a limit. Things have how tall the menorah could be, how big things are. But when it comes to the sukkah, the Torah says that there's no limit to the size of the sukkah, to the width and to the length of the sukkah. You know why? Because the Torah says, "Ru'uyin kol Yisrael leishev b'sukkah achas," that all the Jews should be able to fit into one big sukkah. The idea of the holiday of Sukkot is when we celebrate the unity of the Jewish people. We celebrate that love. It's like a beer hug from God. Your whole body goes into the sukkah, and you sit with other people, and you celebrate, and you eat, and you drink. It's a time when God says you prayed, you fasted, and now it's time to rejoice just the fact that we're Jewish and we have each other. And yesterday in Shul, I spoke about the Yom Kippur War. And we spoke a little bit about how at the beginning people were speaking about a second Holocaust. It's been 50 years since the Yom Kippur War, and how no one expected Syria and Egypt to attack Israel. They thought that they would never do it until they had superior air defenses to Israel, and that Syria would never go without Egypt. In either case, we were caught by terrible surprise. And just from the Golan Heights, 1,600 tanks came against Israel's 160 or something. And I was reading a story about this guy, Yoav, who had 3 tanks against 66 tanks, and how they were circling around and trying to shoot the tanks. And eventually, this was on the day of Yom Kippur, they had no more missiles left in their tank, 1 left, and he asked his commander if he could leave, and the guy didn't answer him because there was nowhere to retreat to. They were surrounded. It was life or death. And when they finished their missiles, he commanded the person under him and him on their tanks. They stood out of the tanks and they used their machine guns to shoot at the Syrian tanks, hoping to hit it where their gas fuel was and make them explode. And they went one after the other till they retreated, and they got rid of all the Syrian tanks. Over 60 to 3 Israeli tanks. But then it wasn't enough. He waited for more. And he saw more tanks coming over the Golan. And he went to attack them. And as it was the end of Ne'ilah, the end of Yom Kippur, he stuck out his head. And he was hit by a sniper bullet from a Syrian. And he returned his soul at the holiest time of Yom Kippur. The second in command, who worked with him to remember him, gives tours of Death Valley in that area and talks about what happened. And they asked him, how was Yoav able to do this? And he said, you know what? Because we had no choice. There was no other choice. It was our survival. And especially the fact that it happened on Yom Kippur reminded us that we weren't just fighting for our own lives, but for the entire Jewish people and for generations. And we had no choice. There was no other option. And many people during the Yom Kippur War said the same thing, how they had the heroic courage to do what they did because there was no other option. And the truth is the same is true when you think about unity. You watch what's going on in Israel, the division amongst Israelis, secular, observant, religious, Mizrahi, Ashkenazi, and there's so much pain, and everyone has a good excuse. But there's no other choice. We need to show love beyond. We need to work together because everyone wants us gone. And if we're not going to come together, we're toast to our enemies. And we need to realize there is no other choice. These are our brothers and sisters, and these are who we live with. I saw this remarkable story that happened a few months ago in Israel. There's a guy, Louis Shiner, a big philanthropist that lives in Monsey. In fact, his partner is a very close friend of mine. And he was in Israel for a wedding. And at the wedding, he was a little tipsy. Or it was actually a bar mitzvah. He was a little tipsy. And as he's walking out, he sees this 12-year-old boy looking very sad. And he was a little tipsy. And he's a colorful guy. And he turns to the kid and he says, "Hey, tell me why you're so sad." He says, "Well, I see this beautiful bar mitzvah. My father passed away a couple of years ago from cancer. And I don't see that I'm going to get such a bar mitzvah. I wish I would have such a bar mitzvah." So Louis says to him, "Don't worry. I'm going to make you bar mitzvah. What do you want?" He says, "I want a theme, and I want game trucks and DJs and this and that." Louis says, "I'm going to pay for all of it. You're going to have it, and I'm even going to come to your bar mitzvah." And the kid says, "It's a problem, because I live in Australia." And Louis says, "Don't worry. I'll come to Australia too." The next morning, they're at the breakfast afterwards. And the mother is there with the son. And Louis comes over to the son and says, "You should know I didn't forget what I promised you." And the mother comes over to Louis and says, "You know, my kid came home last night. And he told me what happened. And I said, don't listen. Yeah, the guy was probably drunk. He didn't mean it. But deep down in my heart, I prayed that it should be true. Because I knew how much it meant for my son to have this bar mitzvah. And I can't afford any of this. And I know how much he suffered since his father passed away. And you became the angel that God and my husband sent for this boy." Well, guess what happened? This past summer in Australia, the most beautiful bar mitzvah with every detail, like the fanciest bar mitzvah. Louis Shiner flew in from Monsey, New York, came to celebrate. Tons of people from all over Australia came. And at the bar mitzvah, the mother tells, and the boy tells Louis, "Thank you so much for being that angel in our life that Hashem has sent." That's love. That's unity. Across the world, don't know each other. Different customs, different countries, different personalities, but we know that we're here for each other. What we learn more than everything as we get to the holiday of Sukkot after Yom Kippur, we've asked for forgiveness and hopefully we will bless with a new year, but we have the tremendous responsibility to realize, just like Yoav did at the Syrian Golan with 66 tanks surrounding him, that ein optia, there's no option. We got to do it because there's nowhere to retreat to. We need peace, we need unity, we need love, we need understanding, because there's no other hope. And when we do that, Hashem will bless us with health, happiness, and continued good. God bless you.